Welcome to the Buddy and Shane Show. Brought to you by AIA Australia, a life, health and wellbeing insurer with a commitment to help Australians lead healthier, longer, better lives.
Hello and welcome to the Buddy and Shane Show, coming to you from the beautiful Gold Coast. We've got paper everywhere and we've got no idea what's on there. But anyway, it's nice to have stuff in front of us. How are you, bud?
We're looking very professional, aren't we, with all this bit of paper? But no, I'm really well, Shane. I'm really well.
Really? Even after both your sides are in turmoil? The Swans and the Hawks? Disaster?
It was a disaster, wasn't it? Friday night, a big loss, and then Saturday, another disaster with the Swans. So a sad
Do you still
household.
think the Hawks are going to win the flag? Or has that changed?
I think it's changed. There's no doubt about that.
Which team is it now?
It's Pies. There's no doubt about that. It's Pies. It's changing every week. But I think
Pies.
That's been consistent, hasn't it?
Yep.
Pies have been the best team throughout the year, so I think they're the team to beat, no doubt about that.
Well, where to for the Sydney Swans? It's alarming. It wasn't a surprise they lost on the weekend because I thought they were absolute certainties, the Adelaide Crows, even though it was at the SCG. But when you've got your own supporters turning on you, clapping when you score a point, giving you a hard time, you know it's getting pretty low.
I didn't see that coming. I really didn't. I think especially after last week to lose by nearly 60 points to Melbourne and then
90.
Was it?
90 to Adelaide.
And then to lose by 90 points on the weekend, especially with such a significant round too. Obviously they had their 05 premiership team there doing celebration for that.
Disastrous.
A huge big build-up for it, Crawf, and then to come out and deliver that, they'll be disappointed. I think that's just something I didn't see coming, and I was blown away with what took place on the weekend. And we can't take much away from the performance Adelaide put on too. They were tremendous, but just the effort from the Swans players throughout the game was disappointing. And there's I'm sure there'll be a lot of meetings happening this week, for sure. There's
work to be done. As you said, Adelaide were outstanding, just great contributors right across the board. Rochelle's little flick pass with his soccer background, onto Keys, who then runs in and kicks a goal. There was lots of great play and great plays for the Adelaide Crows. We're going to pop them up, but we want to try and fix the Swans because the season's definitely over now. So what do they do? Because you got guys like Papali and Goulden, do they come back into the side second half of the year? I think yes. I think you got to give them game time and get them back into a bit of form. But what do you do with those type of players? What do you do with the rest of the team?
Well, there's no way, knowing the Swans, there's no way that they're going to be putting people on ice and waiting for next year. There's no doubt that.
So no one in for surgery?
No, there's no way. I think, especially with these last couple of weeks, with those smashings, they'll be very embarrassed with what took place on the weekend. I think Paps will hopefully be back after the bye. Errol will be back after the bye. Hopefully they can get a little bit more momentum going forward and get back on the winners list. But, what took place on the weekend was just unlike the Swans.
Very much so, yeah. I think that's probably what caught all footy fans by surprise is Sydney not putting up much of a fight. And when you got the 205 celebrations, and that team was all effort and grit and determination. So
I think, and the thing is you can sort of put up with a loss. There's no doubt about that. That's just what happens in football, but you've got to show a bit of effort. And that was the first time, even when I was playing there and then throughout the history of the club, I think that was probably one of the worst performances I've seen, which is just the effort of pretty much every player, besides probably one or two. The effort from them was just well off. They'll be very disappointed and blown away with what they did on the weekend, and I think it just shows you how hard the game is, really.
But you clamp Warner, or you put a bit of focus on him, and Heaney still playing amazing football, but you'd quieten him a touch. 14 goal kickers for the Crows. That is, like, as a coach, and obviously we're not a coach, but that must bring the biggest smile to your face when you got 14 different goal kickers. I know you like to kick all the goals back in your day, but it's nice to be able to share them around. Getting midfielders kicking goals. Dawson's having a wonderful year. He's got to be in Brownlow contention. So This is a different Adelaide, isn't it?
It is. I think having that multiple goal kickers that's what you need, just to make that unpredictable going forward. But I think it does show you, especially with the Heaney, Warner stuff, when you do clamp them a little bit, okay, what else do they have there? And I think it does just shows at the moment that their depth is a fair bit off, and they've got to probably at the end of the year look to the draft again and probably do a little mini rebuild, or do they
which they've been very good at doing over the time. They've been able to get a lot of players that have come in and had a huge impact.
They haven't. Or do they look to trade a player out, or trade a couple players out and trade a few in? But I still think they've got enough talent on that list. But
what about mentally? Do you think off the back of the grand final losing the way that they did, do you think there's something lingering? There has to be something, especially when you haven't started the season so well. So all of a sudden, when your mind's not thinking straight, it can take you down a real rabbit hole.
Yeah, I think obviously the injuries have been a small part of it. I think it's just that effort. I think the effort and the want to win it hasn't been there this year, and who knows whether they've got the after effects of the loss of the grand final. I think that could play a small part in it, but it just does look a little like their motivation is a little bit off. The discipline, they gave away multiple free kicks, 50s on the weekend. It's just stuff like that is unlike Swans, and I think that's been the disappointing part, and that's why I think all the fans of the Swans at the moment will be like, what is going on there? And I think it does show you how good a coach John Longmire is and was.
He will be at Tasmania, as you reckon.
And the pressure, I think, is on Coxie at the moment to get this team up to where they belong. And I think it's a pressure cooker coaching, and there's no doubt Coxie will be feeling the pinch at the moment, and I'm sure he'll be able to get his way out of this. But it does show you how good a motivator big Johnny Longmire was to be able to get the team up week in, week out for so long. And I think, that can't be underestimated.
Yeah, and it's always a tough situation to come in and take over a list that's done really well and then trying to keep them there. And especially, it's only early on in Dean Cox's coaching career, but I'll see if they keep going this way. He's not going to last long, because that's just the way
he's
football
signed
works.
on a 4 or 5 year deal.
Yeah, which is the right thing to do, and you've got to give him time. And I actually love the fact that he tried to move the magnets at the start of the year, because he said, we need to kick goals. So he tried McCartan forward. Do you know what? It didn't work, but I like the fact that he was very open to doing that, push Warner hard forward and spend a little bit more time early. Just try a few things, because you got to try and find that next level to win the flag. Yep, it hasn't worked out. So this is when we're going to really find out whether or not he can coach.
Yeah.
For the second half of the year, I reckon it's a time to really experiment. You want to find out about some of your younger players, but why not try Blakey across half forward? We know he's very good down back. We know he can run and carry the football, so you can always go back there. But why not try him in a different position? Or can he come up and be an on-ball sweeper type where you can give him the footy and create a bit of run? I think it's time to experiment, especially for the second half of the year, because your season's done and dusted. You want to be competitive, but you want to find out whether or not players can play in multiple positions. So that's the way I do think with
that, just even in terms in game plan, the way they're going about it, I think put that aside, I think it's got to come down to effort. And I think that's the biggest thing as a supporter of the club. They'll be looking at it and go, effort is the number one thing. And at the moment, it has not been there. And I think they've just got to strip everything back. Whatever the game plan is, move on from and just go, you know what, we're just going to focus on winning the ball and getting it forward and competing. And that's just what they've got to get back to. And I'm sure that'll be the message this week in the Swans 4 walls, is just get back to effort, have a crack, and then that's the way you're going to get back in the winners list. But that needs to lift this week.
Now, another team that needs a bit of an effort is the Hawks. They got smashed by Collingwood, 51 points. Jamie Elliott on fire, kicks 5. Myercheck's always very good. Side bottom. He's a very old man, but he has 27 and he kicks a couple of goals. Hawthorn's tackling and pressure is down. I said last week this is going to be a true indication of where the Hawks are at, and it's not looking good. The captain's out of form.
You said it early in the year that he has been out of form. in the first couple of rounds.
Well, I said that he needs to change a few things because at the moment he's trending in the wrong direction. But, this is another team
Well, I
that
think
needs to go back to the drawing board.
We just don't want to talk about Sydney and Hawthorn this whole podcast, but that's the way we're starting.
We're trying
But
to fix them.
I will say Hawthorn, it's very similar to the way Swans did its effort. And I think, to have 30-odd tackles last week and then to back it up again and do the same thing just shows you that their intent and their mindset's just not on at the moment. And against good teams like Collingwood, you get showed up. You really do. And they came out hunting and just wanted it a lot more, and Hawthorn were able to step up.
That's what they're doing. Like, they're hunting and setting up the ground so well. So even when Hawthorn gets it, they're just being mauled. And this is Collingwood all year, the way they've been able to win the ball back and then use the right player at the right time. It's a pleasure to watch. They're just so team orientated, and they're trying to make each other better, which is when you're in that frame of mind, they're virtually impossible to. And the thing is, impossible to lose.
And if your pressure's off against Collingwood, they expose you because they're too good with their handballs. That forward handball, 1-2, they're out. They're out the back in 2 seconds and they kick goals. And your pressure against Collingwood needs to be up. And if it's below 2, you get caught out. And Collingwood's is well above 2 most of this year, which is incredible. And that just shows you that their mindset to compete and go the whole way is incredible.
And Sicily is also out of form. And you just got to remember, last year Darcy Moore lost his way a bit, coming off some very good years. And then he's got himself really humming again. So you can turn it around, but the challenge for James Sicily is, can you do it mid-season? Can you redirect the second half of your season and get yourself back into the form that we know that, can be, all Australian form and wonderful form. So can he hang on for 2 more games, get through to a bit of a break, have a mental reset? I think sometimes when you're captain too, I think you can overthink things, you can overplay things, you can feel like you need to do more, when sometimes you just got to go back to trusting the group, trusting the other leaders in the group, and just go about locking in on your job and just slowly build the blocks from there. But, I'm sure a lot of soul searching, very much like the Swans, is happening at the Hawks.
I do think that forward line is probably not up to it, to be honest with you. If I'm going to be serious, if they're going to play deep into finals, I think that's why, for me, I'd take Sicily. We said it last week, Sicily playing forward and just leave him there. I think him swapping, changing defence forward, it confuses him a little bit too. I know it has worked in the past, but I think if you just keep him forward and go, this is your role, we need you to give us a target up forward. I just think with Chol, Gunston, they can be a little bit inconsistent at times. I think putting Sicily there and just saying, we need you to compete down the line, bring the ball to ground, give him a set role, I think that'll be really good for the Hawks going forward. But I think that's what I'll be doing, and they just need to be more consistent.
Well, and when you play like the Hawks have played over the last few weeks, anyone in that forward line is going to be hard work, with the way the ball's moving. They've got a lot of players that are down, a lot of players who were in really good form last year are just not at the level. Scrimshaw, the back line's changed a bit. They've got the 2 new key pillars that have come in, but it's Scrimshaw's not the player he was. Sicily's not the player he was last year. Moore is not the player he was. So they've got a bit of work to be done. And these are all guys that can definitely turn things around, but they've all got to sort of come together and do it at once. And if I'm Sam Mitchell this week, I'm dropping a couple, because we've had a couple of weeks of similar performances which have been below where we believe the Hawks are at. I think you have to drop some. They did it with Ginnivan. They said, we need to find a bit of form for you. He went back, played with the right attitude, comes back in. He's been a very good contributor since. So I think you've got to do that this week with the Hawks. You've got to make the big calls, the harsh calls. Box Hill have been doing well. There's about 4 or 5 in the reserves that have been super consistent. It's time to reward them. Sam's normally pretty loyal with his team, but because the effort and the tackling pressure hasn't been there, I think you have to try and change a few things. All right, let's move on. Brisbane Lions, 18-point victory over Essendon. McCluggage is a star. He's always been a star, but he had 41 touches. The Bombers put up a good fight. think Brisbane might have switched off and they were coming off a short break. So you could factor that in, but Essendon had a few injuries. But let's talk about Caddy for the Bombers. Do you like him? Do you like the look of him? Because I do. He reminds me, like key position young forwards, it's a very hard thing to really stamp your sort of mark on the game early on in your career. But I've seen a lot of green shoots, as they would say, with Nate Caddy, and I know he doesn't play like you, but he reminds me a lot.
Yeah, I think
of you. I don't know what his work ethic's like. All I can go on is there's little moments where you go, wow, something special there if he can get that ingredient of hard work mixing in with talent. And he reminds me a lot of when you were starting out.
I'd probably
different
say
hair colour,
definitely different looks,
a different style of player, but he reminds me a lot of you.
No, I think he reminds me a lot of Curnow. That's who he looks like. You watch him, he looks a lot like Curnow, but he's got a huge future, really. What is he, only 19 or 20 or something? So he marks the ball at his highest point. He competes. He's got a little bit of mongrel about him, which I like. And he's kicked, I think in 6 games, he's kicked 2 goals a game. So he's doing pretty well. So, I think he's got a bright future. There's no doubt about that. And I think Essendon have done well in getting him to the club.
Yeah, I just hope with him, because you can see there's something really there, and you get Kako underneath him as that coming forward. You're like, they're going to excite the Essendon supporters for a long time.
Read up back.
Yeah, that's right. They've got a lot of there's a lot of positivity around the group, and they're being highly competitive, even though they're undermanned at times. I just hope that he's got a work ethic. Because that's going to be the key.
Yeah, and he does. He does. If you watch him, he works hard up and down the ground. He's got a huge tank.
Yep.
He's got a huge tank. And I remember Jordan Lewis telling me, even before he played, I think he was injured in his first year, and he was running laps around the MCG, and Jordan said he had a huge, absolute massive tank. He was moving really well. So, and then I've watched the games up closely. He's got a great work rate, which is always the key to becoming, hopefully, a good player, and there's no doubt he will.
Yeah, yep. Well, he took a run and bounce on the weekend, and I'm like, he reminds me a bit of L. Franklin in his younger days, who turned out okay. Fremantle, knock off my team, the Gold Coast Suns. It was a very good victory, 11 points in wet conditions. But they turned up. They scoreboard pressure early against the Suns. The Suns, to their credit, worked their way back into the game. Looked like a chance to win, but Fremantle found a way with Nate Fyfe coming in late in the game.
What a sub.
What a super sub in wet conditions too.
In wet conditions came on and impacted straight away when they needed him.
Yep.
That was impressive, but that was a huge win.
3 in a row for them.
As I said, mate, I tipped them. They played Port Adelaide in the wet last week, played that really well.
Once again, you're having a go at the Gold Coast. You've got something in.
As I've said from the start, there's still question marks on me with Suns. There's a few more games left, so time will tell. But I think Fremantle are incredible. They're the informed team of the competition at the moment.
Midfield firing, Jackson floating through there. Darcy took the ruck at times. Jackson stayed on ball. Our man Bolton, a match-saving tackle, and he's kicking goals. He's floating up around the wing. Brayshaw, like this is the Fremantle we were expecting at the start of the year, which we didn't see. They've got North, Essendon, and St Kilda in the next few weeks. So if they can chalk them. And I think most of them are home. So all of a sudden, it's not about finals. It could be top 4 for them. Realistic, a top 4 is a chance for them now.
Yeah.
In the form that they're in, the way that they've changed their game style of touch, and if they can lock away those wins, they're a top 4 contender, and they're back to what we thought they could be at the start of the year.
Well, they've got three or four games coming up in Perth, so I think Jackson definitely, him being the number 1 ruck, he loves it. And I think when he's the second one, I think they're just a different team when he's playing forward, bench, ruck. It just doesn't suit him. I think when he's the number 1 ruckman, he goes out there and delivers because he's just so good on the ground. So I think there's a real issue there with that ruck selection. I think that
it will be on dry conditions, I reckon. Like on the weekend, you can get away with it because you need a big lumbering ruckman just to give you first use, but Yeah, I wonder about dry, fast conditions and whether or not, as you said, you're just back in Jackson.
I think they're
Don't worry about the Gold Coast. They're a good team. All's not lost there, even though they didn't get across the line. The Giants somehow fell across the line. The Tigers were awesome. Kellen Ward, obviously, does his ACL. He's been an incredible player. And then he speaks to them at three-quarter time when they needed some inspiration. They needed to get themselves together, and they were able to. Goodness, I'd love to know what he said, but maybe he said, "Listen, this is my last game. Thanks for the ride. I know my knee's gone, but please, can we finish on a positive note? Can we actually try and win the game?" I think that's all he would have had to say, and there was lots of tears, but it's an emotional game, and he's been a wonderful player for them for such a long time.
Yeah, he's been incredible, Wardy, and hopefully it's not
his
last game.
Do you know him, Wardy?
No, I don't.
Oh,
did it sound like I knew him?
Oh, you said Wardy. I'm like,
no.
Because of that Sydney, Battle of the Bridge connection that you two, the Swans and the Giants.
No, but if that is his last game, what an incredible career he's had. Unfortunately, didn't get
great
that
leadership,
but
tough player, hard at the footy.
But that was Tigers were pretty impressive throughout that game, but GWS, wow, they came back, and I think it just shows you what a great club GWS are to come from behind. Obviously, Wardy jumped in and had his chat to the boys at three-quarter time, and they were able to deliver for him and finish off strongly. But GWS, huge win. Tigers were awesome for those 3 quarters.
The young
late.
Tigers, look out.
They ran out of legs. They were tired, so they were exhausted. But they've got, as I said, they're on the right path, the Tigers, so it was good to see.
Shout out to Ben Miller, who played on Jesse Hogan, kept him goalless, which is a huge effort. So it's the first time since round 16, 2023. Do you like that stat?
Pretty good effort.
Took me a long time to find that.
To keep him goalless.
Yeah.
Pretty impressive.
Now, the Saints started extremely well at Alice Springs. I've got issues with these remote games because our crowds are so low, 4,000, 6,000, 8,000. When normally if Melbourne played at the MCG, they average 60,000 at the MCG. But anyway, let's not talk about that. Melbourne kicked 721. That's Buddy Franklin-like. They kicked 112 in the second half. So they obviously had their chances, but the Saints, Dan Butler kicked a lot of goals. Higgins was held. Wanganeen-Milera is a player you like. Yep. He was in good form.
No, that was Melbourne had opportunities, as you said. They just couldn't kick straight. They were definitely gettable shots. But credit to St Kilda. That was awesome. That was really good. I think
right attitude,
but I think the key to that game was Wanganeen. I think he really opened up the play. If you look at most of his kicks inside 50, they turned into a goal or a point.
I've been banging on about him all year, saying hey, he's one of the best players in the league. What do you pay for him? Because Adelaide are into him. Like some people are saying he's across the line to go to Adelaide. I feel for St Kilda because they've found a player through the draft. They've turned him into a superstar. He'll make All-Australian this year. He's going to make our team. And, so what do you pay for someone like that? Who can? I think he can play everywhere. I think he's shown that he can float middle, kick the ball inside 50. He's great down back. He runs hard, so he's obviously got a bit of an engine there.
Yeah.
What do you pay?
They wanted to pay them.
Come on, we go from doctor to CEO
list
now.
Manager. So, they wanted to play the Carlton Ruckman.
Yep, 1.5.
1.5 million.
Yep.
I'm giving 1.25 to Milera and just keeping him. There's this guy. I think he's got the potential to be a top 5 player. With what I saw yesterday, that was impressive. It really was. They give him the ball at all costs and it breaks up the game. No one can catch him.
Yep.
No one can catch him, and he makes you pay with every possession he gets. So I'm paying him over $1 million. He's definitely worth that. And you're giving him a 10-year contract and going, here you go. Thanks so much for coming. Because he is. Okay. He's incredible.
You love these 10-year contracts.
10-year contract I'm giving him.
What's it like to sign a 10-year contract?
Pretty good.
Is it?
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So when you sit down with the Swans and they go, here's a 10-year deal, what does it look? How much paper? Because we got a lot of paper in front of us.
It was just a little one. It was
just like 10 years.
Yeah, 10 years. Here comes.
10 years, $100 a game, and we'll give you some petrol money.
That's it.
Maybe a pie and sauce if you happen to kick a few and make some All-Australian teams. Those bonuses, like back when I first started, which was a long, long time ago.
Yeah.
The full forwards used to have in their contracts, they get paid per goal as well.
Yeah.
Which just, when you think about it, was creating nothing but selfishness. Because if you've got it in your contracts to get bonuses to kick goals,
but it'd be like
of course you're going to kick goals and not handball
It'd be
off.
like you having Brownlow in yours.
I think I did.
It'd be the same as a midfielder running around getting touches.
You think it creates selfishness? Actually, do you know what? That's not a bad point.
It would be.
That's not a bad
Brownlow
point.
or Best and Fairest, guys go around getting touches.
I agree with the Best and Fairest stuff because that's match committee, that's playing your team role. They factor all that into your voting, which I like. Whereas the Brownlow medal bonus is an interesting one because that can create a bit of selfishness. And I was very, very selfish. I would never share with my teammates. Why would you do that? Shout out to Winghagen for the Saints who played on No. He played on what's his name? Who kicked lots of Pickett. How could I forget Pickett after how amazing he is? But he did an amazing job. He had plenty of the footy himself, and I love the fact that he can clamp, but he's also prepared to run off and make them work the other way. I like that. The Cats, 43-point victory over the Eagles, which the Eagles are right in this match, even in the last 5-10 minutes of the last quarter. I like the new game style of the Eagles. At least they're trying to take the game on, even though you got to hold your breath because skill-wise, they turn the footy over. But it's a new way of playing. They're just backing their players in to run really hard. Harley Reid showed a bit. Oscar Allen, he was quite good, kicked some goals. And then Jeremy Cameron, your man, and Bailey Smith. Well, he was amazing in the first half, had 25 touches. But Jeremy Cameron, last 15 minutes of the game, decides to kick 4. That's what he can do. Yeah. He's held quite well, but in saying that, they always looked a class above the Cats.
Yeah, and 2 stars got him over the line, didn't they, with Cameron and Bailey Smith? But what a year Bailey Smith's having. He had another 38 touches, which was incredible. He's leading from the front there at his new club. And then Jezza, what's he got now? Nearly 40 goals for the year. He kicked 6, 5 and 5 maybe in the last couple of weeks or whatever it is. So he's in rare form, which is great to see. I will say with the Eagles, I think Don Pyke's over there now. And he, no doubt, would be a big part of this. He would never like to admit it, but he'd be a big part of this.
Did you rate him at the Swans?
He was huge. He was huge. And I think, especially with that offensive play, I think that was back when he first got there, that was probably a part we sort of struggled with a little bit. We were always a good defensive team, but then when he came on board, he just added so much to our offense, and I'm no doubt he'll be doing that with the Eagles at the moment. Obviously trying to get their defense good, but their offense looks different. Different. They're more attacking, which is good to see, and that's what you want to go to the football and see goals kicked and take the game on, and there's no doubt that's sort of changed, and it looks good. Yeah,
and I think it's so hard for a team, that especially defence, when they see all these numbers charging when they have the footy in all different directions, chopping and changing, it's very unsettling. So it was good to see. So
and good to see Oscar Allen too. Kick 4, which was awesome. He's been on the pump this year. Obviously the captain of their club. It's nice to see players respond like that. He looks like he's got his body in pretty good condition. He was moving across the ground well. So well done, Oscar.
Good on you, Oscar. You're listening to the Buddy.
Hawthorn.
Yeah, see you at Hawthorn next year, maybe the Swans. You're listening to the Buddy and Shane Show for AIA Australia, a life, health and wellbeing insurer with a commitment to help Australians lead healthier, longer, better lives. Buddy, it's time for
Buddy's Young Star of the Week for the Kia Tasman. Reserve yours now.
That's right, Buddy's Young Star of the Week. Who will it be? What do you think?
I think I spoke about him before. Wanganeen-Milera.
Yes.
I spoke about him before, and it was between him and Caddy. But I will say...
He's only young, isn't he? I didn't realise he was so young.
He's only 22. He's been in the system for 4 years, played just over 50 games. But wow, what a future this guy's got. He has been incredible. And like I said, what I saw yesterday from him was like, wow, this guy is special. And just, he makes you pay. And I think that's a big part. Like once you get the ball...
He's going to make St Kilda pay, don't worry about
he's
that.
He's going to make them pay too.
Adelaide at the end of the season, whatever happens. But yeah, no, he's quite a special talent.
There's not many that can do that. Take someone on, a guy running flat out behind you, chasing you, and he's in...
And the composure to then, not launch the footy like a lot of players do, actually
kick to advantage.
Okay, where am I going to kick this? I'm going to kick it to you, or I'm going to make that hard kick, which a lot of players can't do. Yeah, very special player. And when he links in with Sinclair off that half-back line, it's very hard for the opposition to stop, especially when they're in good form, the Saints.
Especially when you've got two players that are great with ball in hand. All you got to do is just give a little handball and it just breaks up the play. And that's what St Kilda did really well. And that's what he did. He was running hard, getting little handballs and just breaking the play up. So well done, mate. You're well deserved.
Yeah, and I've seen with him this year, because I've got a lot of love for him. I've seen at times he can go on ball and he can work his way through stoppages. So I have no doubt that he can spend a lot more time through there. And once he kicks that ball forward and over the arc, St Kilda score. That was Buddy's Young Star of the Week. Very good one. Thanks to the Kia Tasman, the most Australian Kia ever developed, built tough, tested hard, and ready for anything. Whether you're hauling, towing, or taking the road less travelled, the Tasman is made for the job. The Kia Tasman. Reserve yours now. Hey, huge week coming up this week. There's massive games, season-defining games, even though I said that last week about the Hawks. But they've got the Bulldogs and the Hawks Thursday night. Yep. Just off the top of your head, don't even think about it. I'm not going to
comment because the last time I commented I was so far off, so I might just...
That's footy. It changes from week to week. We don't know what mentally the players are going through, how physically they are. All we can go by is what they've dished up the week before. So I'm throwing at you Bulldogs, Hawks. Who wins that? Quick one, bang.
Bulldogs.
Okay. Crows and Lions, Friday in Adelaide.
Crows.
Cats and Suns, Saturday at Geelong.
Cats. This is huge. And this is what I'm talking about. If
that's what I'm talking about.
Are a genuine threat.
Oh, here we go.
In finals, they go down there and they win.
Do you know what?
I think, and this is huge. This is huge because I've been a harsh critic on them all year. And if they're genuinely serious about playing deep in finals, they'll go down there to Caddy and get this done. And very rarely will the team do it. But this is massive. If they can do that, then I think that they're a chance to play finals.
The Suns they're a tough, contested side. They've turned themselves into, we saw that in the weekend, even though they didn't win, they hunt the footy. And going down to the Caddy, you've got to have a contested ball team. And Hardwick will know that. So I reckon they can knock them off. Carlton Essendon, how good, arch rivals. Surely the Carlton can't lose this.
I'm going Essendon.
What?
Yep.
Surely the Blues.
Blues.
The Blues are any good. They've got to find a way. And then Melbourne and Collingwood. King's birthday.
Pies.
MND Day for Neil Danaher. What a bloody legend he is. One of the all-time greats. All right, there it is. You've been listening to the Buddy and Shane Show for AIA Australia. Thanks for listening. We'll be back Monday. Well done, Bud. All the very best. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being a part of it.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks, mate.